you will please go into your note packet to notes 5-2. It says graphing by calculator. Okay, so the first lesson, 5-1, that was graphing by hand where we had to draw everything. I left the graphs on here, but we're actually not going to graph by hand. We're going to use the calculator. So the first thing that I want you to do, since this number 1 is graph ready, is I want you to come over here and I want you to write steps. Because you're going to be doing this in the calculator, and it is quite a few steps, but the calculator does it all for you, and it's kind of nice. So step 1 is to get into slope intercept form. And remember, slope intercept form is just y equals mx plus b. Step 2, you're going to put in y1 and y2 of the calculator. Step 3, you're going to graph it. And the reason we graph it first is to make sure that the lines do intersect, because if they don't intersect, you can't do anything with it. And then step 4, you're going to press these buttons in this order. Second, trace. Number 5, enter, enter, enter. Okay, so I'm going to do the odds today. Yeah, we'll do the odds. And then you'll just finish this up for me. So the first thing that I'm going to do, since number 1, you have one equation here and one equation here, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to y equals. And in y1, we're going to put x plus 6. And in y2, we're going to put negative 2x minus 3. And then we're going to hit graph. Because remember, first thing you got to do is graph them. You want to make sure that your lines are going to intersect, which they do. So now I'm on step 4, which says to press second. Traces this top 4th button. And we want number 5 intersect. You can literally hit the button number 5. And then your calculator says first curve, so you hit enter. Second curve, you hit enter. Guess, you hit enter. And it pulls it to the intersection. And it says that my intersection is negative 3, 3. So I'm going to write negative 3, 3, box it, and I have my answer. I'm done. You don't have to graph. Okay, so now I'm going to move to number 3. Step 1 is to get into slope intercept. Well, that one's not in slope intercept, so I move the x by changing the sign. That gives me negative 3y equals negative 2x minus 12. And then I divide by the number in front of y. And that gives me y equals, this will become a positive 2/3 x, and that becomes a positive 4. And then over here, I move the x by changing the sign. That leaves me with y equals, so now y is by itself, and this is a negative 1x plus 9, because those don't go together. So I'm going to go back to y equals and clear out my y1 and y2. And in y1, I'm going to put 2/3 x plus 4. And in y2, I'm going to do negative 1x plus 9. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to hit graph. While it's graphing, remember that you want to check to make sure that they intersect. If they don't intersect, you either have something wrong or they're parallel lines and they won't intersect. So since these intersect, we press second, trace, and we're going to do number 5. First curve, enter. Second curve, enter. Guess, enter. It's going to pop up with intersection, and it says my intersection is 3, 6. So I'm going to put 3, 6, put it in parentheses, and box my answer. Now I'm going to give you a hint because y'all are going to do number 4 on your own. You cannot put x equals in the calculator, so you're going to have to do number 4 by how we did it yesterday and actually graph it. Or you can just take this and plug it in and find out what y is. Okay, for number 5, the first equation is in y equals, but the second one is not. So we're going to move the x by changing the sign. That gives me negative 3y equals negative 6x plus 12. And then I'm going to divide by the number in front of y. And that gives me y equals negative 6 divided by negative 3 is a positive 2x. 12 divided by negative 3 is negative 4. Okay, so I'm going to go to y equals. I'm going to hit clear. I'm putting y1, 2x minus 4. I'm going to put in y2, 2x minus 4. You should notice something right now. Those are the exact same. So when I graph them, the blue line was the original and the red covered it up. So this is the same line. So that means they touch everywhere. So this one is the infinite many solutions. And remember, we don't use the symbol because the symbol is representing numbers where this represents a set pair. So it has more than one number connected. Okay, we're going to flip onto the back and you are going to just keep following along. We're going to do number 7 and number 9. Okay, for number 7, I have 2x plus 9y equals 27. So the first thing I'm going to do is move the x by changing the sign. This gives me 9y equals negative 2x plus 27. Then I'm going to divide everything by 9. I get y equals negative 2/9 x, and that becomes 3. Over here on the other side, I'm going to subtract the x. That gives me negative 3y equals negative 1x minus 24. I have to divide everything by negative 3. That gives me y equals negative 1 divided by negative 3 becomes a positive 1/3 x, and negative 24 divided by negative 3 becomes a positive 8. So I go back to y equals and I clear out y1 and y2. In y1, I'm doing negative 2/9 x plus 3. And in y2, I'm doing 1/3 x plus 8. First thing we do is graph to see if they intersect. If they do not intersect, we might have a small issue. So, we see that they intersect. Okay, while that's blinking over here and circling, you couldn't see it. I didn't have my calculator over far enough. There will be a circle right here while the calculator's thinking. Don't hit a button while you're doing that. Okay, so since they do intersect, second trace, number 5, enter, 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 and it pulls the intersection over to negative 9, 5. Put it in order pairs, box it, I have my answer. So I'm going to go over one more example, and I'm going to give you a couple of hints. Once we finish this one, we have 2x minus 2y equals 14. So I'm going to subtract the 2x. That leaves me with negative 2y equals negative 2x plus 14. I'm going to divide everything by the negative 2, the number in front of y. And that gives me y equals 1x minus 7. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to subtract the x. That leaves me with a negative 1y equals negative 1x plus 2. And then I'm going to divide by negative 1. And that gives me y equals 1x minus 2. Okay, so I'm going to go back to y equals. I'm going to clear it out. I'm going to put 1x minus 7. Oh, I put it in the wrong one. 1x minus 7 and 1x minus 2. I'm going to graph. You can see that these lines are parallel, which you should know that because their slopes are the same, and so they never intersect. So when you do second trace number 5, enter, 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 it's going to pop up and say error, no sign change. And the reason it says no sign change is because your slope is the same. So therefore, this one has no solution because it does not intersect. Okay, so now, helpful hint for number 10, you might want to put that there's a plus 0 right here for when you're solving. And also, don't forget that over here on number 4, you're going to have to do this one with the graph because that can't go in the calculator. You can only put y equals in the calculator. You can't put x equal. So you're going to finish up these 5 problems for me. We're going to check them. If you have questions, let me know.